So I've been working on a way to filter out turn lanes and exit lanes from OP steering ever since I got my car and got OP in it, and tried many different things, including going so extreme as trying to just use the factory camera data to override or second guess OP steering commands, and that was actually pretty effective, but it just wasn't upstreamable, and I just wanted a better way. Eventually, as I started learning more about the model data while working with lag control, first of all, I realized that I just didn't know jack about it. It's very confusing. I couldn't find the design document for it. But over the last few days, I guess I've spent 40 hours or so just experimenting with all the different outputs from the model and vision to figure out some way to determine whether its path or its chosen plan is really the right one to go with. And what I realized is that there's not like some special output from the model that says that there were two choices on whether you could go left or right. Basically, it makes a decision based on whatever it does, and it just has to stick with it. So it doesn't ever second guess itself. Once it chooses to go left, it'll go left. Once it chooses to go right, it'll go right. It has to make that decision pretty early. But what I've done is I've found a few data points that I can use to identify when there was a different choice that was more appropriate, and just go ahead and kill the current plan and just switch back to the other. So it's less smooth, less slick, but it's much less irritating as a driver. I can understand why Comma went the way they did, because they would people would be complaining probably about whatever happens there, where if it starts to go one way and then changes its mind, goes the other way, then that's going to be something people complain about too. So but that's basically the route I went with. So I make it to where as soon as my logic can determine that there was a better choice, a straighter choice, it will switch over to that, and the steering will flip back. And so I go ahead and I reset the MPC dampening so that it will go ahead and rapidly go back to the more appropriate angle, and I increase the probability of the other lane line so that it will go back quicker, and it works surprisingly well. Right now I'm just testing to make sure that it didn't degrade performance overall. You can see here there's two different there's really two different values, but one of them is after the adjustment, the probability adjustment, and the other is before. So the top is the left side lane probability, and the bottom is the right lane strike probability. Whenever there's no choices to be made, it's just real close to 1 on before and after the adjustment. But whenever you see like a little notch where it's not quite as bright, that's where an adjustment was made for because of it questioning whether there's an exit. So as I get further along, I'll point out the more significant changes. There's somewhere where it was diverging just enough for it to start to reduce the probability. Up here, this is where two lanes converge. I actually don't know how well this is going to do because I haven't tested this yet, but early on I had problems where it discounted that and increased that. So I'm not just decreasing the questionable lane line, I'm increasing the other one so that it will pull it toward it if it's not already. I'm going to move over to the left lane to see how it does with this left turn lane. So there it started to pull in and it turned back. So that was perfect. That was as good. It's always just pulled hard into there. So there it shut it all the way down to 0. It increased that one a little bit, and that's what turned it back. I'd love to have it to where it just goes straight, but I haven't. I think it might take another day, or probably just not be doable. I'm not sure. But I'm heading now to the most problematic exit/turn lane I've found around here. It's one that gets me 100% of the time. It pulls really, really hard. It's a left exit, or it's an entrance ramp onto the highway on a 60-mile-an-hour road. So it's really an exit, and it has such solid stripes on it that it pulls the car in as hard as it'll go, and I have to fight it to get it back out. So that's the one I've been testing with for the last few days, and I finally got it to work. So I'm going to go back, and hopefully I'm not going to make a liar of myself, because it's always been more problematic at night because of how reflective the lane lines are. So we'll see what it does. I'll speed the video up while we're on our way there, but also I'm going to go ahead and show how solid the steering is on the highway. This is 70-mile-an-hour road. I go 73, and there is a there is an exit coming up, a right-hand exit. So we'll see how it does there. Right there, and see, made some adjustments. And I do have a latch on it to where, or a logical latch to where once it makes a decision to cut it out completely, it holds it there until it's done. So this would be one that it would normally take, but it aborted, so that's good. See, it cut it down to 0, latched on, and increased the other side, pulled it back. Adjustment there. I'm not sure why it was, but I'm going to go ahead and take this exit. Go ahead and take it. It was going to miss it, so that's good. Double test. There's a turn lane to the left that you would normally pull into. So we'll skip that one. But up here, this is the mother load. The test of all tests. It tried, so I need to tweak on the how much I increase the probability on the other side, because it's just not pulling back as hard as it needs to in some cases. So it questions itself. So I think like a 1.5 instead of a 1.2 would be better. Good times. So I'm circling back. So fortunate to have a place like this to test, because I would guess that, I strongly believe that I probably could have a Guinness Book of World Record for the most number of times driven across a bridge. This bridge. I've done it like 40,000 times. Maybe 50,000 times. Yes! Okay, so 2.0 made it. Did enough pull. I think that there's probably going to be a better approach than just increasing the probability, because I think that I can also use the amount of observed error from the mistake, and instead of just increasing the probability, I can just adjust the offset to pull it back more, instead of just making it effectively just a wider lane temporarily. I think. We'll see.